Hello, Connective. Today I have the Energy Oracle cards. I have the Energy Oracle cards for hopefully a one-card reading. See if I can get one, just kind of jump out. Oh, wow. Okay, let's see what that is. Indecision. And attachments. Attachment. Card number 5 and card number 8. Indecision. I mean, this card really looks like a crossroads to me. Like, you have a choice. You can go here, you can go here. But I don't necessarily think it's a choice being shown here, especially if this card wants to fall out. You know, attachments for people with spiritual awakenings, you know, you're not really supposed to form them. I mean, they talk about how, you know, you come into this world with nothing and you leave with nothing. And yes, that's true, you know. You don't have any clothes on your back when you're born. You know, when you leave, you can't take it with you. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, clothes or, you know, money. And so they tell us not to form attachments in this life because it creates problems. So since we talked about a little bit about mediumship, you know, part of the reason why disincarnated spirits don't go into the light is because they've formed an attachment to something. They've either formed an attachment to a person or a place, maybe, you know, when they're in the house. This is my house. Sometimes it's a thing. Sometimes it's, you know, furniture they've hung around because they're mad because furniture has been split up. Like, no kidding. You know, so because they're, you know, when you die, you're like the person that you are right now. You know what you know right now. You know, as a person, when you die. When you go into the light, that's when you get your information, you get your kind of connection back, you know, if you don't have one, to source, you know, where you get to start talking about, you know, the lessons that you learned and the reasons why you went through what you went through when you were on this plane. If you form attachments and you decide that you don't want to go into the light, like you just want to stay and kind of see what happens to this piece of furniture, you can really build like resentment and things like that as a soul that hasn't really reconciled this life yet because you're still attached to this thing that you don't want to leave. Meanwhile, if you did go into the light, you could experience that thing. You can see where it's going, and maybe even that emotion that you had, that, you know, say if you were mad because somebody split up this furniture and you're angry, that emotion wouldn't be there if you looked at it from, you know, from a perspective of, you know, what we call heaven, for, you know, in loose terms. So I feel like what these two cards are really saying here is that if you decide that you want to form attachments, that it could create problems with the way you make your decisions. And it really doesn't matter what kind of decisions we're talking about. This could be business. You know, I mean, if you decide, oh, I want to work with this company, I like this guy, I just like this guy. Everybody's like, yeah, I don't know, I don't think you should do it. You're like, I like this guy. You know, then you find out like he takes you down. Everybody else kind of jumped before because they knew. Because you formed an attachment in business. It doesn't matter what it is. So you really want to think about, you know, I mean, first of all, a lot of times with attachments, I think people mistake them for symbiotic relationships. You know, I'm not necessarily talking about inanimate objects. I mean, it could be, you know, but I'm mostly talking about, you know, when you form an attachment, you, I think, aren't looking at it as far as like that attachment. I think you're more looking at it as like either what you bring to that other thing and what it brings to you, or something to that nature. I mean, we've talked before about how you have a relationship with everything. It does include this table. I have a relationship with this table. If I want to mistreat it, I have free will, I can do that. If I want to treat it well, I have free will, I can do that. If it starts to break down and it starts to not be able to serve its purpose anymore, it gets tired, and keep trying to save it, I keep trying to do all this stuff. Here, let me see if I can nail a few more planks to it and all this stuff. This is not good for me. Well, I can't buy another table. I've had this table for so long, so long. You can't do that, especially with inanimate objects. But, even with people, relationship. I heard something a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was a really interesting comment. The lady said that all relationships are temporary because someone breaks it off, either they break it off, you break it off, or you both break it off mutually, or someone passes. And, it's like, yeah, I mean, we've also talked before about how sometimes, with me, those relationships don't really end. But, I guess to a certain extent, yeah, if you want to feel someone's hug or something like that, yes, to a certain extent, part of that relationship has ended. But I know that person is not gone. I know that person can be, and I don't have to be attached to love them. I can just, appreciate the relationship for what it is, for whatever it is, even if it's this table. And, just be clear about how I'm treating it, how it's treating me. Is this a healthy relationship? Don't form attachments. I think it'll create more than just indecision, but don't form attachments. Form bonds, like real bonds though, things that last, that are not toxic. Because this brings an air of, I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. Whatever wants to come up. Honestly. So decide not to form attachments. Till we meet again.